You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. That's the definition of a good-looking person, always looking for and finding the good. You found good in abundance because you tuned in consciously and conscientiously to the Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. Notice I didn't say the ambassador of joy. The ambassador of joy, and you tuned in for one reason only. It's the best reason in the whole world because you care the most, the entire world, about you. Y-O-U. And that's great because when you are the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony. You create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And you tuned in, and thank God you're always telling your family and friends to do it as well. That's why we're over 500,000 listeners. By the time we bring on our amazing guest today, he's going to rock your world. It's so much fun. Before we bring on Seth, we'll have over probably close to 520,000 people around the world. And all I ask is that you share this with 5 people. You want to share it with 50 or 100? Great. But at least 5 so we can touch a few million people around the world, because you know that in this show we discuss the 3 fundamentals of life. And they are, number 1, your life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, number 2 happens. In this case, good number 2, you go MAD. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym. It stands for make a difference. You lead a purpose-driven life, you make a difference in the world. And the 3rd fundamental is to unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. And when you do all this, the result is you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? As an example, right now, this show is carried on the internet around the world, hundreds of thousands of people listening. And if you ask anybody, what does WW stand for? Invariably, they'll tell you it has to do with the internet. Now, factually speaking, they're correct. However, in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, WWW stands for what a wonderful world. Is a word, right? WHATA. And of course, a big tip of the hat and a big thank you to Louis Armstrong Satchmo for enabling that song, What a Wonderful World, to go viral and touch not just tens of millions, or hundreds of millions, billions of people around the planet. Whenever you hear the opening bars of what a wonderful world, what do you do right away? You can't help but smile. Now, smile is one of the most important words you're going to internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life because it stands for seeing miracles in life every day. That's right, seeing miracles in life every day. Let me tell you a quick story. It's about me. Imagine, if you can, I'm standing up in the morning, completely healthy and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. And that evening, I'm in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed, my neck down. It's called being a quadriplegic. And it was not from an automobile accident. It wasn't a spinal injury. It was a rare disease, which I never heard of the day before. It took over my body and rendered me quadriplegic. I can only communicate by blinking my eyes. I was 144 days in the hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my home for 2 years. I couldn't move. 4 years in a wheelchair. I had braces on both my legs, my hips, my ankles. That was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. So I'm a triped, not a biped. Can't walk up a stair by myself. Can't walk up a curb by myself. I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. All because of this one word. Smile. Seeing miracles in life every day. Now, I got to tell you, I am privileged to speak to people around the world every month, millions of people. I do in person locally here in Henderson, Nevada. I spoke recently to a group, 1,127 people, telling the story of Barry Shore, both seeing miracles in life. Some people raise their hands and say, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours. I haven't seen any miracles. And I asked them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I can barely do that. You have water, drink, you have food, you have a place to sleep, your family, your friends. Every single one of those is a miracle. And what's the proof? Simple proof. 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching or you're listening, You didn't. If we have an obligation to live life to the full, to live exuberantly. I got to tell you a quick story about my 8-year-old niece. She comes over to me a couple weeks ago and says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile S-M-I-E-L? I thought about it. Smile, smile, sounds the same. Why not? I asked her, how come? She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. Out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. Well, what was she doing? She was creating the kind of world that she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a fabulous acronym. It stands for causing, rethinking, enabling all to excel. What we call a shift in perspective. Now, I got to tell you, I've been working with people for more than 4.5 decades in coaching and things like that. People come to me on paper, they're doing great. And then they tell me their life story, and what they've done is they drop the F in shift, and the other stuff happens. You got to keep your F's in place. And when you do that, you shift your perspective. Guess what happens? You can internalize, utilize, and leverage the 6 most important words you'll ever learn. And these are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. How you choose to respond in any given situation determine your path in life and your trajectory. Now, before we bring on wonderful Seth, I got to warn him and everybody listening. I do use a lot of 4-letter words. I even use the 4-letter FU word, and I do it because of the shock value and it's fun. Now, of course, the 4-letter words that we use, because we live in the world of positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, are love, life, hope, play, free, give, swim. And the 4-letter FU word is fun. Fun, that's right. FU, capital N, capital N. So after the show, you see your family and friends, you have a twinkle in your eye, smile on your face. Remember this, you have to point your finger, FU, everybody. Remember to add capital N, capital N. Where'd you get that? Listen to Barry Shore. He had on Seth Davis. Now you got their attention. Now you can share with them the insights that you're going to learn today, which are amazing. I promise you, amazing grace. So before we bring on fabulous Seth, I want to just urge everybody to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life. Make you happier, healthier, and wealthier. These 2 words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. To harmonize and nurture kindness. KIND is a fabulous acronym that stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. I can't think of anybody that inspires noble deeds more. This amazing, wonderful, upbeat, fabulous Seth Davis. Seth, please say hello to 519,817 people around the world.
Oh, that's quite an introduction. That's the best introduction. I've done a lot of these. That's about the best introduction. I'm a little intimidated by that introduction. Now I have to live up to it, but I'll do my best for you, Barry. How are you?
Like high bars, especially we're going to be talking about Coach Wooden later. We're going to talk about Larry Bird. We're going to talk about Magic Johnson. We're going to talk about March Madness. We're going to even talk about Sister Jean. But let's just jump right in. If I tell everybody all the things that Seth has accomplished in his short span of 5.5 decades on the planet, we'll take the rest of the show. I'm going to give you 3 data points. Number 1, interestingly enough, he is not just an accomplished author. And if you've been involved with sports, especially basketball, obviously the name Seth Davis rings big bells. So he's written for everybody from Sports Illustrated to his latest gig called Hoops HQ. He not only writes about the sport, he makes it come alive. That's number 2. And number 3, he's a very fun person. Seth, when was the last time somebody said F you to you and you laughed? You know,
it doesn't happen often enough.
So those are the 3 things.
The first part happens plenty, believe me.
Okay, so people do say "f you," but they didn't mean it with a capital N, capital N. Let's just jump right in. I want to talk right now about the present, and then we'll go into the past. Let's just talk about the present right now, because basketball today, 2025, and rarely, by the way, do I announce the year. I won't announce the month, because what's going to happen is, because of AI and all the things that happen in the world, people may be watching this a decade from now, 2 decades, a century plus. And they'll look back and say, wow, that was interesting. These people talked about what? We're going to talk about basketball in this moment. Basketball in this moment, in my humble opinion, is radically different than when you wrote your book about March Madness, 1979. That's almost for sure. And it's even different than it was, let's call it 10 years ago. And one of those factors, not both, but one of those factors is women in basketball. So I don't want to monopolize with women in basketball. I want to go to your strong point, which is college basketball. Because really, for me, what you are is that you're the ability, you're a prognosticator. You're looking at the future. I mean, you're looking at the potential big names, whatever they are, right? Whether it's a Shaq, it's a LeBron, it's a Bird, it's a whoever it is, you're looking at 16, 17, 18-year-old, maybe 19, it's almost old, and seeing, wow, these are people not just talented, because talent is not that uncommon. It's the ability to merge talent, mind, and heart. Now, if I've said it wrong, correct me and let's go forward. So talk to us about what you do.
About what I do?
Yeah.
I'm kind of always on my grind. It's funny when the off season is going on, people will ask, oh, do you have some downtime? And say, nope, my time flips. I do spend less time traveling in the off season, which is good because that means being around my family more. I'm incredibly blessed with a beautiful wife who just turned 50 and doesn't look it. And 3 boys. My oldest 2 are at the University of Texas at Austin. One is a senior, one's a sophomore. My youngest son, Gabriel, the angelic one, is a sophomore in high school. Really good baseball player. So, that's really, when you say what I do, like that's what I do. That's who I am. I've always loved to write. I've always loved to read. So even though I'm certainly better known for my television work, just because of the nature of the beast, Barry, being a writer, and that's who I am. I'm an ink-stained wretch. So I do enjoy writing, and I enjoy learning. And so it's all of a piece, like you mentioned, this company, Hoops HQ, we cover men's and women's college basketball 12 months a year. There's a lot to cover, more to cover in the off season, to your point, than ever before, with all the transferring that goes on and coaches changing jobs and recruiting and the NBA draft and players getting paid now. So there's all sorts of sort of legal machinations that are going on that are so fascinating to cover. So that's really the great thing about what I do, Barry, is that it's always an excuse to learn. I can kind of assign myself what I'm going to write. And so, well, what am I curious about that week, that day, that morning? And I'm blessed to have been doing this for long enough and knowing a lot of people that I can usually go straight to the newsmakers. If I want to know what's, like before we were coming on, I was just exchanging text messages with Mark Few, the coach at Gonzaga, because I just want to write about him and his program, what kind of team, where they are with their changing leagues. And so we're going to set that up. So, and it's allowed me to accumulate, if I may say, a lot of wisdom, because I'm constantly kind of what you do. I'm able to ask a lot of really pertinent and personal questions of my subjects, the kinds of things that you would not necessarily ask if you were having casual conversation over dinner or what have you. So that's a big part of it. So I have Hoops HQ that I write. I always have book projects going on. Right now I'm writing another collaboration memoir with Larry Brown, great Jewish coach. I went to Duke, he went to North Carolina, so maybe there's hope for humanity.
That's called inside basketball sports.
Yeah, I think people understand Duke, Carolina. Yeah,
because we have a worldwide audience. So just put it in perspective. Yeah. Everybody in the world knows what basketball is. And by the way, basketball is, in my humble opinion, an international sport today.
Oh, for sure.
Now, it is almost the essence of what I'll call American sports. I mean, it was designed in Massachusetts. Hello. It was designed in Massachusetts for people in the off season, for people who can be indoors, because in Massachusetts in the wintertime, you need to keep athletes active and such like that. But it was designed with a peach basket to be able to shoot hoops. And now it's not just that it's okay in Europe and in China. Everywhere in the world, people know what basketball is because it's a great team sport that also allows the individual to shine. And I want you to speak about what you just said, because I find it truly fascinating. Because of your years, decades in the sport, you have access. That access has granted you something that, I'm glad you used the W word. and that is not winning, but wisdom. Wisdom leads to winning. And I'm going to ask you to speak about that because you wrote a book that features Coach Wooden. I know that he's the ultimate W. And again, for our worldwide audience who are not familiar, for me, Coach Wooden, okay, I not only read about him, I apply his principles regularly because those principles create humanity. Like you said, there's hope for humanity. Speak to us about what Coach Wooden did for the sport of basketball and the creation of great people.
Well, you we use this word wisdom, right? Coach Wooden was highly intelligent, and I've often said in many contexts that there's a very, very discernible difference between intelligence and wisdom. And we're lucky if we have one or the other. Not many of us are blessed with a surfeit of both. Coach Wooden was, and deep humility and faith. And he was a man of great character. Although he was not a saint, he was certainly flawed because he is a human. He's of the earth. And so I set out to write a book that dealt with those flaws. And it wasn't like I was trying to take him down or, character assassination. I actually, why would you want to write about John Wooden's flaws? I think we're more likable when our flaws are exposed. I think we're more relatable when our vulnerabilities are exposed. But vulnerability is a very important word. But John Wooden grew up in Indiana. He was born in 1910, so he grew up in pre-Depression and then Depression, Indiana. On a farm with an outhouse, no running water, all that. Just learning how to work hard. And he happened to be born in the perfect time and place. Where the sport of basketball was just coming into creation. I've often said basketball was conceived in Massachusetts with James Naismith, but it was born in Indiana. And he was right there for that birth. And he became one of the great college players of his day at Purdue University and went to be a high school teacher for many, many years and almost fell accidentally into becoming a college coach and stayed in Indiana in his native Midwest at what is now called Indiana State University, and had an opportunity to go to Los Angeles and become the head basketball coach at UCLA right in a couple of years after World War II. And so it took him quite some time to learn his craft and, most importantly, get a caliber of player required to win championships. But once that started happening, it was just one of these perfect storms, again, of talent, time, intelligence, wisdom, effort, work, faith, luck, call it what you will, right at a time when television was becoming a big factor. The NCAA tournament was growing. So he won 10 national championships at UCLA in a period of 12 years, and including winning 7 in a row. All of those are records. At one point, he won 88 straight games, which is still a record, certainly a record that will never be broken.
Pause just for a moment, because for you to share these remarkable statistics, again, one of the reasons we do this and it's recorded is you can go back and listen again. I don't want you to write anything down. I'm talking to the people listening. Just experience Seth and what he's sharing. This is the fountain. It's overflowing with goodness and such. And then when you go back and you listen again, you can pause, take notes. And if you're really, really good and smart and want to acquire wisdom, you listen a third time. The point that he's making here is that what Coach Wooden did and was able to do with his intelligence, wisdom, is to shape a dynasty that didn't exist when he got there. It wasn't as if he went to the school and, well, yeah, we're number one. It was on the contrary. Here you got a guy from Indiana coming to Los Angeles. What is he going to be able to do? Who knows? And for those people watching who don't know of Coach Wooden yet, you will, of course, after you listen to this. People are going to be searching all over. For me, one of the greatest things that I read about him that he said often is that he wasn't training young men to be great basketball players. He was training young men to become men.
Yeah, whether they like it or not, and it's interesting, I suspect people listen to your show, Barry, who are in positions of leadership. And so there's always this balance, especially when you do something over a long period of time, because as you know better than anyone, and you're a wonderful, hopeful, and on some level, I suppose, tragic example that the only thing that's constant in life is change. And, no, you're an extreme example of that, and that's why your outlook is so inspiring, right? So, but there's this. So change is the only constant in life. And so if you are a leader at any time, but then if you are a leader over a long period of time, you are going to be confronted with these changes. And so you have to make these decisions on a year-to-year basis, month to month, day to day, minute by minute basis of where do I not compromise? Because these are the principles that are unbreakable and unbendable, but then where do I need to adapt or this ship's gone past me by?
Okay, let's talk about this shift. Remember, keep that F in place. So we have sponsors that love us. We wouldn't have them on if we didn't think they're worthy of your time and attention. We'll be right back with more Seth giving us
Pay the bills.
Great thing. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We love Seth Davis.
Hello, skincare connoisseurs. If you think you have tried everything in skincare, you are going to love what I am about to tell you. I'm pharmacist Benjamin I. Fuchs. I'm a dermatology pharmacist. And what I've discovered in my compounding pharmacy after decades of working with patients with skin traumas and skin diseases is the missing link in skincare is topical essential nutrition. And because of this missing link, we're not maximizing the potential of topical skincare. We're leaving skin beauty and skin health on the table. And that's why I formulated my Truth Treatments. Listen, the skin's an organ. It needs and wants and craves nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and plant-derived minerals, and now it can get them in super high concentrations in my Truth Treatments. Originally formulated for dermatologists and their patients, now they're available to you. Check them out today at truthtreatments.com, and I know you are going to love the truth.
Good day. Beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. Our cup runneth over with good. His name is Seth Davis. He is one of the more prolific authors, writers about this great sport called basketball. One of the great commentators on basketball. He's a man who was looking at people now in their late teens who are developing into great potential, and he's looking at the future. So what I'd like to do is, we've been talking about Coach Wooden and what he did and how he was able to form and shape people into great beings. And you talked about him coming from Indiana. Let's do a little shift into talking about Indiana, and we'll talk about one of your great books, because I think this book is actually, first of all, I love the title, When March Went Mad. And you wrote it, I think it was in 1979. No, you wrote it in 2005.
Right. The game was 1979.
1979 was the game, but you wrote it 20 plus years ago. And it's about this emergence of something called March Madness, which now is so fascinating about life. March Madness, well, everybody knows March Madness. Like it's been around since the Revolutionary War. Well, no, and you write about it, and you write about two unique personalities. One of them from Indiana, who incorporated most of the principles that Coach Wooden taught and lived by, because Larry Bird was, in my humble opinion, one of the hardest working professional athletes ever. And Magic Johnson, one of the greatest, most interesting, pleasant people. And as you and I spoke before, we might even talk about during the show, from two different worlds who got along well. They were rivals on the highest level, and they could be brothers sitting at a table.
Well, but it took a minute. It didn't happen right away. So the book describes the story of the 1979 NCAA championship game. Larry Bird played for Indiana State. It was his final year in college. The team was undefeated going into the championship game. And Magic Johnson, Irvin Johnson, played for Michigan State. He was a sophomore. And so they were the two best players in the country. They were both 6'9" wizards with the ball. And it was one of those incredible, Barry, moments in time. I remember when I was doing research for the book, of course, one of the first things I did was get the video of the NBC's broadcast for that night and watch the game. And there's my friend Brian Gumbel, who was hosting the pregame, and he was talking about Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and he was talking about Magic Johnson. This guy's terrific, and he said, if you're seeing him for the first time tonight, you're in for a treat. I said, whoa. Seeing him for the first time? This is the championship game.
Right.
You talking about people watch that game who've never seen these guys play? I mean, that to me was the whole framework for the book. And, that game by a Nielsen rating, I think it's 24.1 or something like that. It is still the highest rated basketball game, college or pro, in history. And it will always be, because back then there were only 4 channels. Now there's 4 million. And so, no one, I think now, like if a championship game gets in the low double digits, 11 to 15 on a Nielsen or however. So anyway, it was, I wrote the book about that game, but the game only occupies maybe a dozen pages in the book, the actual game. It was the story of these 2 men, young men, who could not have been more different. One black, one white is the most obvious difference. From different types of environments. Magic from Lansing, Michigan. Bird from French Lick, Indiana, rural community. Magic, the life of the party, extroverted, loved people, loved the spotlight, loved everything about it. Larry Bird came back to Indiana State, made a deal with his coach. He said, okay, I'll come back as a senior if you promise I don't have to do any interviews. Now, if you're the coach, that's an easy one. No problem, Larry. Whatever, especially at Indiana State, right? It's not like a powerhouse. So, good storytelling always has great contrast. So it's this great moment in time. And then also, that September was the launch of ESPN. So that ushered in so the game was in March 26th. And in September 79, ESPN launched. The Big East Conference was created that season for the first time. ESPN needed programming, so they showed a lot of college basketball games. And then what Magic and Bird did going into the NBA. And again, just to show you where things were at that point, when Magic was a rookie with the Lakers, they were playing against the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA Finals. And of course, he played with the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kareem got hurt. So they had Magic play center in Game 6 as a rookie, should have been a junior in college. Scored 42 points. Lakers won the NBA title. Magic won the Finals MVP. That game was not broadcast on live television. It was shown later on that night on tape delay. So that's where this world was when these 2 gentlemen showed up. But they were bitter rivals and could not be friends and did not like each other. And then a couple years into their career, they both were endorsers of Converse. And Converse wanted to shoot what is now an iconic ad. I invite your listeners to go on YouTube and find this commercial of Magic and Larry in French Lick. And it shows Larry on his court on the off season working out, and Magic pulls up in a limo, right, with Lakers gear and their Converse. He's like, oh, this, you're working hard. So am I, let's go. And they play 1-on-1. So they were together for a couple of days shooting this commercial, and they got to spend time together, real time together for the first time. And that's where they became brothers, because as much as they wanted to beat each other and hated losing to each other, they loved the game more. They loved the game more. Like we talk about where the world is today with its division, Barry, and you're doing such great work to bring it together. Sports and music are the 2 great unifying forces and have always been. And so their love of basketball birthed a friendship, and it very quickly grew to beyond a friendship. It became a brotherhood. They're best friends. Eagles are the highest flying birds, right? So only an eagle knows what it's like to be an eagle, and that's the bond between them.
There's a couple of great stories. One of them is, first of all, you mentioned Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. People can look it up and such. So Kareem was smart enough, humble enough, and great enough to give Coach Wooden the respect due to him, to say that if you think I'm great, that's the reason. I mean, I'm crying when I think about it. That's how smart, how wise he was as he grew older. And part of the fun of that commercial, and later it was said that you see Magic with this beaming smile. It lit up not just the room, the stadium, right? And Larry Bird. He's very, very down to the minutest detail person. He would go into a stadium hours and hours before a game and get out all fours and just look at the floor and see where the ripples were and such like that. I mean, I come from Boston, so I'm a Larry Bird fan. The point is, though, when they got together, Magic said after the 2 days they were together that the fact that they ate at Larry's mother's table made all the difference. And that's what you said. This was America, will be America again, can be America, and it's the world. Because as you say so brilliantly, sports and music are the elements that transcend those other issues.
And by the way, you hit on a third one: food. Food brings people together.
Hello, is there anything better than bringing food and people? Especially, by the way, you talk about two huge people that love to eat, and they were sitting there, and Mrs. Bird is serving them huge helpings. I mean, talk about fun. That is and was America, and they rubbed it. That's why I love what you did. How many books have you published, Seth?
I think 9. I have a couple of self-published ones that I published.
Okay, so 9 books.
They count. I wrote them. I published them. They count. 9 books.
Okay, so here's the interesting, because you mentioned it. Let's be blunt. People tend to read less today, or reading for fun is less common than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. What is more common today are very short clips that hold an attention span of a gnat, and that's spelled GNAT, not a Nationals League. And you are so accomplished that you've been able to combine both of these formats so that you have that quick wit that can grab people's attention in a nanosecond, as well as, like you said, doing research and bringing out great, interesting moments that are on the printed page, or people forgetting to print, and however they read their stuff. So I want to talk to you about what you're seeing now in both leagues: men's basketball, which has always been around, and women's basketball, which is a new phenomenon, by the way. Let's be blunt. The fact that a woman, or a young girl in this case, because we're talking about kids 16 to 19, basically, can not only play, but in some cases play very well. Now, they're not going to play against guys, and they shouldn't. Maybe like the Harlem Globetrotters, they can do something like that one day. However, in their world, women are highly accomplished. So when you're looking at these players, you're looking at the future. You're looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Are you seeing people of the caliber of Bird and Kareem and Magic, or is it nostalgia to think like that?
Oh, I mean, it's my friend Jay Billis makes this point a lot. If you look around, everything's gotten better, right? Cars have gotten better, planes have gotten better, food's gotten better, technology's gotten better, air conditioning, lighting, everything's gotten better. So, why would basketball players be the one thing that hasn't gotten better or has gotten worse? I mean, look at Victor Wembanyama. I mean, could you have ever imagined somebody at 7'5" being able to do the things that he's able to do? And he's a baby. He's really just getting started. So,
by the way, it's a wonderful point you made.
Yes.
Because again, basketball now is an international sport. So we have people leaning in, and no matter whether they're from Bhutan or the Congo or Venezuela or Detroit. When Wilt Chamberlain came into the league, it was a shift, because as good as Bill Russell was, and he was great, Wilt had something that was a little bit different. It was, Wilt the Stilt, and it wasn't just that he was large.
Right.
Now you're talking about somebody who's more than 6 inches taller, I think, than Wilt Chamberlain, equally as coordinated and capable.
Yeah, and more skilled. I mean, if if Wilt needed to be skilled back in his day, I'm guessing that he would have. Nowadays, kids who are super tall in elementary school, that they're not looking to post up like Shaq. They're looking to, play outside like Wemby. And so, or you look at someone like Stephen Curry. I mean, could we have imagined somebody playing the game like him as well as he has? And now everybody is playing like that. So, I think the game has continued to evolve. I think players today are better than they've ever been. I don't think how you can argue. I mean, I think that I look at LeBron James, his excellence on so many levels. I don't know, and I'm thinking in my lifetime, I know there was, I don't know if it was Sidney Crosby or there was a hockey player of this ilk. Tom Brady certainly comes to mind, but what LeBron has done in terms of his longevity as somebody who came into the league at the age of 18, and now he's 40. Now you and I are old enough to remember, Michael Jordan at the tail end of his career. He was still a very, very effective player, but he was different. He had to play on the ground, below the rim. LeBron James is still physically overpowering people at the age of 40. I mean, a couple of years ago, he's playing for the Olympics for the U.S., and they kept going to him. Like, he was the guy on that team at the age of 38 or 37. So he's a marvel to me. And that's not to say, I don't like it when people say, well, players of the past era would not have been effective today. That's not true either. I mean, Wilt would have been great no matter what, right? Oscar would have been great.
Oh,
right. So that's the great thing about sports. It inspires all kinds of conversation, debate. It's a big morality play.
Yes, I want to go. This is so interesting you say, because this is what I think makes Seth Davis so fascinating, is that you do understand that sports is part and parcel, like you just said, the great morality play. It's the human condition. What is it that's okay? Like Steph Curry, I'll give you an inside basketball thing. I think you'll like this. So I happen to be a big fan of the Harlem Globetrotters. Why? Because when I was 12 years old, my father took me to Boston Garden, which I forget even the name of what it's called today. Boston Garden, to see the Harlem Globetrotters. I saw Meadowlark Larkin play. So if you don't even know what I'm talking about, right around the world, you'll do your search and look up Globetrotters. It was basketball to the nth degree, fun beyond understanding. So one of the people that created the Harlem Globetrotters was a guy named Abe Saperstein. So Abe Saperstein, Jews were very involved in the early days of basketball, like Red Auerbach for the Boston Celtics, etc. Okay, why do I mention Abe Saperstein was all of 5'2". He was short even then, right? Against people who were in the 6-footers and stuff. Abe Saperstein wanted to help make basketball that much more interesting all the time. He's the one who created the three-point shot. The dimensions on the court. He's the one who invested the time, the energy to figure it out. And it wasn't until decades later that a Steph Curry could come along and train himself to do what no other basketball player was able to do, which was from a large distance, consistently, much like a bird. Bird would shoot. He would not just shoot 10 shots or 50 or 100. It's a mindset.
Yeah, and it's being able to think outside the box and think differently and be innovative and not be afraid of change. A lot of people are afraid of change. We're having this big debate in the college basketball community about whether the NCAA tournament should be expanded, and I don't think it needs to be expanded. But I think adding a few more teams would juice up those first couple of days. But I think a lot of people they like things the way it is. It's working fine. It doesn't need to be fixed, certainly. But I think people are very, very resistant to change.
Well, and that's always going, by the way, part of the morality, but that's always going to be, whether it's people of different colors and races. And I mean, when we start seeing people from playing international basketball for the championships, okay, then you'll know there'll be some change. So here's a question. This whole situation now with very young players, with being able to be paid and have their image sold and things like that. Do you see that in the minute we have before we go to our next break? Or how do you see that affecting what people do vis-a-vis going into professional earlier, who knows what's going to happen, staying in college ball, et cetera, because money affects everything.
It does, and money is important, and so I think a lot of people, most people would say they're in favor of these people making money. I think people should be paid what they're worth. I don't see anything wrong with that. There's an incredible education, which is a very, very underrated piece of all this, Barry, where, who's this FICA guy who just took 30% of my money? Well, it's called taxes, and well, you think this is a lot of money, but let's take out the taxes. Now let's take out a percentage for your agent, and you wanted to buy that for your mom, and now your brother needed a loan. And so what do you have left, and what are you going to do with it? And maybe it doesn't go as far as you think. And by the way, when you start making real money, which again, I'm in favor of, I like to make as much money as I can, but like now new people come into your life. Are they really doing it because they like you, or are they doing it because of your money? If you're not married yet and you're looking for a future wife, does she love you, or does she love your money? So careful what you wish for in life. But generally speaking, I think it's a good thing, a very good thing, that these young people who for too long have been denied access to this money, many of them, frankly, as we all know, come from extremely challenging economic circumstances. They have the ability to change the history of their families. So there's a lot of good that comes from it. But like a lot of things in life, money is complicated.
Hey, on that high note of talking about money, we have sponsors that love our show. We wouldn't think they're your value to you. We'll be right back with more Seth Davis, because this is riveting. Be right back after this brief message. Don't go away. Opportunity. What an opportunity. I'm going to use 2 4-letter words right now. Free gift. Free gift. Yes. You can have a copy of my best-selling book, The Joy of Living, How to Slay Stress and Be Happy, the ebook version, for absolutely free. All you have to do is send an email to me, Barry, Barry, at barryshore.com, and in the heading, the subject line, just write free gift. It's as easy as that. This is a life-changing, life-enhancing opportunity. Barry at barryshore.com. You'll be glad you did. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Free gift. Do it now. Take the action. Make it happen right now. Best wishes. Bye. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. You're good-looking. So I was looking for and finding to go. He found good in abundance. His name is Seth Davis. He is one of the most prolific writers, commentators, when it comes to this amazing sport called basketball. And we've been talking about the past. We're talking about the present. Talking a little bit about the future. We're talking about that great equalizer, or that great stimulator called money, because it's now coming into both leagues, the men's leagues, the women's league, in a way that didn't happen 10 years ago, certainly. And it's going to cause a bit of a shift. I think you made a remarkably important point here, Seth. I want to emphasize, it has 2 aspects to it. Number one is, let's just pick a number, take $1 million, because $1 million is still money to most people, $1 million. However, when people start looking, hey, I got $1 million. Well, did you? You talk about taxes, you talk about agent fees, and you talk about what you have. So now you understand the reality of what earning money, not making money, earning money is all about. What is it? Not how much you make, how much do you keep? That's a very important line that most people never learn, no matter how old they are. And now to be able to take young people, again, I'll use 16 to 19, who come from oftentimes straitened backgrounds, and now their whole life is going to change because they're going to have millions of dollars, or will they? And that, what does that do to the mind? How do you play when you're thinking more about the money and what about this and such? And unless and until Coach Wooden principles come into your life, I'm going to go back to Coach Wooden, because again, part of what he worked with when he was developing people, he called them men because he coached men, is the ability to have that which other people want, your money in this case, and therefore flattery, and therefore, who knows, real, true love in life. How does that happen for young people who are being, how should we say it, attacked by everybody who wants a piece of their action? I didn't say a piece of their other. I just said a piece of their action.
Well, there's a lot there. I'm reminded, the two of us here, a couple of young Jewish guys, of the exchange in the play Fiddler on the Roof between Tevye and Perchik. And Perchik said, of course, Tevye's song was "If I Were a Rich Man." He doesn't have money. He wants money, and they're having this conversation about money. And Perchik says, "Money is the world's curse." And Tevye says, "May the Lord smite me with it, and may I never recover." So we get it. We get it. I never want to convey, especially the people who pay me when there's contract negotiations for a book or a job or what have you. Money's important, and having, I tell my boys all the time, money can make you comfortable, but it can't make you happy. Money should be your servant, not your master. And so, I developed something that I call a tree of why, where, we always talk about, why and what's the purpose of, what's your purpose? I'm not talking about like why in the clouds. I'm talking about literally why, like talking to a college athlete. Think about how much time you have spent playing your sport, getting better at it, training, hurting yourself, sacrificing. Why are you doing this? And at the top of the tree of why, Barry, on one side is process and the other side is results. And the key and the trick and the complexity of it is, sometimes the harder you try, the less your chances are of achieving your goal. So if you remain focused on the process and growing and learning and developing good habits and having pure intentions and practicing gratitude, then you can get to what is the ultimate win in life, which is bringing us back to John Wooden, which is peace of mind. John Wooden, if your listeners are not familiar with his pyramid of success, look up his pyramid of success. His definition of success was, you might say, winning the championship, right? Making millions of dollars. Success is peace of mind that comes with the self-satisfaction of knowing that you did your best to become the best that you're capable of becoming. And most people focus on the second part of that definition about fulfilling your potential, which is important. But I always come back to for those three words, peace of mind. Look at what's happened to you, Barry. Look at what God gave to you, right? That I often use the expression, God would never give me anything that I can't handle. I just wish he didn't think so highly of me. You're the ultimate example of that. So John Wooden, you look at John Wooden, could anybody have lived a more fulfilling life, a more successful life? He won championships. He was a huge celebrity. He impacted lives. He had a platform. He had the most loving wife and a great family and multiple grandchildren and great-grandchildren. His salary at UCLA in his final year in 1975, when he won his 10th national championship, $32,500. He lived in a modest two-bedroom condominium. I had the honor of visiting him there several times. Low condo on Margate Avenue. Bill Walton used to call it the mansion on Margate. And he would sit in his den and read you poetry and recite poetry and answer questions and take calls. He lived this incredibly fulfilled life, but he wasn't a wealthy man in terms of his bank account. But he had a roof over his head. He had a place to sleep. He had a bathroom. He had a shower. He ate. He didn't starve, and he was so wealthy in so many other ways. So I don't say to people, don't chase money. I don't say people that money is unimportant. I say always remember where you are on your tree of why. Why are you doing this? If money is the ancillary benefit for the work and the growth and the process, beautiful. If money is the point, you're headed for a hard reality one way or another.
First of all, Seth, I'm so happy that you're here. And so are hundreds of thousands of people. And again, I urge you to share this with 5 people so we can touch millions. I have the great honor, privilege of interacting with a number of people in the basketball world. I'll mention one of them because I think you either knew him or you knew of him, certainly. Junior Bridgman. Junior Bridgman, if those people, again, just look him up, you'll see, was a remarkably successful person. He was a great ball player. He wasn't outstanding, but he was certainly great enough to play for the Lakers and such like that. And he moved away from basketball with a wonderful, loving wife and great children and such. And he died a billionaire. He didn't make his money in basketball. He answered his why by building companies, by working hard in what he was doing to further the material success for himself, his family, and everybody around him, because he incorporated team principles. And part of the reason I personally love watching basketball, as I said in the very beginning, is because at one and the same time it's the ultimate team sport. And yet there are unique beings in that team that just, like LeBron, all right? LeBron is a dominant person, whatever team he's going to be on. That's just the nature of life, right? Steph Curry. However, they know enough that if you really want to win, it's all about the team. Is that right?
Yes, and I do think that the best of the best are truly invested in the process, and it's a very hard thing because we live in a results-driven world, and nowadays with social media, we're constantly being compared. So when I talk about the tree of why, on one side you have process, on the other side you have results, which leads to expectations. Comparison is the thief of joy, fear, resentment, regret, suffering. You live your life in the external. And unfortunately, we're raising the anxious generation of people, athletes and non-athletes alike, who are constantly finding their why in the external, when it literally can't happen in the external. It can only happen from your soul. That peace of mind, only you at the end of the day can judge whether you gave your best. And as the saying goes, once you've done your best, the hell with it. And so I do think that those who achieved at the highest levels have been able to, for the most part, lose themselves in the process. And that means giving yourself grace and forgiveness when you come up short, because at the end of the day, there's only one team holding up that trophy. You know, there's a really fascinating conversation that happened a couple of years ago. The Milwaukee Bucks were the reigning champs, and they got upset in the first round of the playoffs. And their great player, Giannis, I always butchered the Greek freak, Giannis, was asked, do you consider the season a failure? And, Mark Cuban, among others, got very mad at the question. Like, what kind of question is that? No, he didn't say you are a failure. He was asking, was this a failure? And Giannis went on this incredible soliloquy about, just that, giving your best. And if you give your best, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and a lot goes into it. But to determine that you're a failure if you don't get the result you want, to determine that you're a failure if you don't win an NBA championship, is not sustainable. And it's not conducive to quote unquote success. And it makes you less likely to win the NBA championship. That's the paradox of this whole thing, is that, a man named George Mumford was the man who taught meditation to the Chicago Bulls. He was a friend of Phil Jackson's, and Phil brought him in, and then Phil brought him in to work with the Lakers. He started working with Kobe. And he explained to Kobe, the key to scoring is not trying to score. And Kobe's like, what do you like? Kobe was like the ultimate Mamba warrior, will, a force of his will, strength of his will. We mean not try. All I do in life is try to score. No. If you want to score, don't try to score. And so when you let that go of the results and you give yourself that grace, you're more likely to score. You're more likely to win. You're more likely to be wealthy and get all those things. But it's a hard paradox, man. It's what all of us go through every day. I mean, I know you're here and you're chipper and you're the joyful guy, but I'm sure you have your moments of like like this kind of sucks what happened to me, you know?
Are you telling me I'm human? Oh my gosh, don't let
I know. I'll just keep it between us. I won't tell anybody else. But that's the journey. You know, the Buddha said, like the Buddha had the Four Noble Truths. The first one is life is suffering. You know, we all suffer, and that is why, to bring this full circle, we were brought together by Randy, my fellow kindness evangelist, and that's why kindness is so important. First and foremost, being kind to ourselves. Be kind to yourself. Be forgiving of yourself. Give yourself a chance every day to be grateful and to do your best and let go of whatever quote unquote mistakes of the past, but then also being kind to everybody, because everybody's fighting a hard battle. Everybody is struggling. So Be kind to yourself, be kind to everybody else in your own little way. Do the good that's in front of you. We don't have to fix everything, Barry. There are a lot of problems in the world. We don't have to fix it all.
Now you tell me.
Yeah, I know. I just ruined your day.
So here, can you read this card? Let's see if we can put it up so everybody can read it.
I don't know that I can see it.
Let me see.
Everyone, it's got a little bit of a glare on it. Read it to me.
Everyone you meet
is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Amen.
Let's read the back.
There's too much glare. Be kind always. Yes.
So we've given out.
I just saw a quote from the Dalai Lama: "Be kind whenever possible, and it's always
and it's always possible." And he laughs. I love it when he laughs.
This conversation is happening, Barry, because several years ago, I mean, there's not a lot of kindness on Twitter. There's not a lot of grace and love on Twitter. Not a lot of that in social media. And by the way, people, that is not reflective of the actual world. You know, the social media is like a funhouse mirror. You know, the mirror is curved and distorted and manipulated. But anyway, every day, the first thing I write on Twitter, I spend way too much time on Twitter. First thing I write is, please be kind. First of all, I'm talking to myself. I'm reminding myself to be kind, because I'm not always kind. And I'm reminding myself to be kind to myself, and I'm not always kind to myself. And I just started doing it every day. And it's been remarkable how much people appreciate that absolutely meaningless gesture. And that led to my being invited to speak at this International Kindness Conference in Palermo, where I met Randy, who connected you to me. So, you know, it's amazing how much you can do with really, really small things.
Seth, I'm loath to say the words I'm about to say. We're coming to a close on our time together today. I have 3 quick questions for you. You ready?
Yes.
Number 1, will you come back again?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to see you when I come to Vegas over Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Number 2, Seth Davis. You have only 80 seconds to answer this question.
Oh, goodness.
What is your most fervent desire?
My most fervent desire is that my wife and my children and my family not only love me, but respect me.
That's part of the tree of why. I love that. Thank you. And number 3, may I give you a hug in front of 523,817 people around the world? Okay, let me tell you what HUG stands for. Heartfelt, unlimited giving. Here we come. 1, 2, 3. And remember, you're watching and listening to The Joy of Living with the humble host, Barry Shaw, the ambassador of joy, our amazing guest, Seth Davis. And I urge you to all understand that this show is not about Seth, great guy that he is, or about Barry Shaw, fabulous fellow. It's about you. Y-O-U. You becoming the best you possible. Because when you're the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony, create more joy, happiness, peace, and love. You work with the 3 fundamentals of life. Number 1, life. Your life has purpose. You lead a purpose-driven life. Number 2 happens, you go mad like Seth. He's a madman. You make a difference in the world. Number 3 is you unlock the power in the secrets of everything works in terms. WWW, what a wonderful world. Smile, seeing miracles in life every day. Or as my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. Create the kind of world you want to live in, causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. And then what happens? You can live in joy daily. Joy stands for Journey of You. Seth, I created an acronym for your name during one of the commercials. Can I share it with you?
Please, I love acronyms.
Seth, S-E-T-H, success encourages transformation happily.
Love it.
Thank you. That's you. And remember, I urge everybody, you're going to use 4-letter words. Remember, the 4-letter words that we use could live in the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant are love, life, hope, play, free, give, swim. And we want you to tell the world to F you. Capital N, capital N. So after the show, you see family, friends, twinkle in your eye, smile on your face, point your finger, and say, F you. Capital N, capital N. So where'd you get that? It was in the Barry Shore. He had on Seth Davis. You know what he was talking about? The great morality play of life. Happens to be called basketball, but that's just beside the point. It's a tree of why. So we urge everybody, a blessing from Seth and Barry. Go forth. Live exuberantly. Spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Seth, don't go away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.